Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about Silence today. So, Silence, it was directed by Martin Scorsese, had a great cast, and it's funny because it's not your average Scorsese film.
What's the world coming to?
So yeah, just to warn you, there are spoilers ahead. But to sum it up, you have these two Jesuit priests going out to Japan where Christianity is illegal. They don't want outside beliefs influencing their people, and they find these Japanese Christians, and the whole plot is just centered around persecution. They get hunted down by the Japanese government, and the government is trying to force these guys to apostatize or to give up their faith, symbolized by stepping on a stone tablet of Jesus. So the situation that the Japanese government puts the two priests in is that instead of torturing the priests to get them to apostatize, they torture the Japanese Christians to get the priests to apostatize. So it's a difficult situation because the whole thing is do you sacrifice what you believe in for the sake of these innocent people, or do you sacrifice innocent people for the sake of what you believe in? It's kind of like a Dark Knight situation.
Batman must take off his mask and turn himself in. Oh, and every day he doesn't, people will die.
And the climax is Andrew Garfield when he is about to step on the stone tablet of Jesus because there's all these Japanese Christians getting tortured right in front of him. And he hears Jesus speak to him.
Come ahead now. It's all right. Step on me.
And so he steps on it. And you kind of do feel this loss as the viewer. You feel dang, he lost. He got beat. We're so used to watching our heroes get rescued last minute, and everyone wins and everyone lives and is happily ever after. But this is one of those films where it's reality, where this type of stuff happens. The heroes lose sometimes.
You can't die. Everybody really likes you.
And after watching the film, kind of the biggest thing I was thinking of was should he have stepped on it or should he have not? The pros and cons of both sides. But I feel like that was more of a distraction to what the film was really about. So what is the main message of the film? Or the book, because this film was also adapted from a book. So the film's title is called Silence, and specifically it's about God's silence. And one of the main questions and conflicts that we have when it comes to the existence of God or a God is, if he is all good and all powerful, how come he is so silent? Why does he let all these things happen, all these evil things happen, without doing anything and without saying anything? I think the film does a pretty good job at depicting the struggle for any person, the non-believer or the believer, what it feels like to pray to a God that you expect to help, or at least expect to say something, but receive nothing in return. And here's a great example right here with this clip of Rodrigues praying and getting discouraged through it.
The weight of your silence is terrible. I pray, but I'm lost. Or am I just praying to nothing? Nothing. Because you are not there.
And the film, by no means, it's not going to give a satisfying answer to every single person. But for me, I think it does a really good job at giving the piece of the puzzle without being too preachy, making it too obvious, which I think is kind of a hard thing to do with these types of topics. We could find the answer right here in this clip.
Lord, I fought against your silence.
I suffered beside you. I was never silent.
I know. If God had been silent my whole life, to this very day, everything I do, everything I've done, speaks of him. It was in the silence that I heard your voice.
Yeah, so this clip right here explains the silence of God throughout the film. And basically, God was saying that his silence does not equal his absence, and that he was suffering beside Rodrigues, besides the other priests, besides all the people that are suffering in this film. He is suffering beside them, with them, next to them. And I feel like that this concept is actually portrayed in the Bible also. There's this passage when God the Son, Jesus Christ, he's in full human form, and therefore he's feeling everything that we feel, and he's about to die on the cross, and he's feeling so stressed. Basically, he's sweating blood, and he's praying in this garden to the Father to, for a rescue, kind of exactly what Rodrigues is praying for, like rescue, some kind of answer. If you could remove this cup from me, if there's any way I could get out of this, please do it. And the Father is just silent throughout that time also. And I think that the film's silence and these passages in the Bible really reveal a characteristic of God that we often overlook, because, when it comes to that question, how come God is so silent with all the evil that's happening in the world? We're expecting for God to show his wrath, to show his vengeance, justice, and power. And there are times that God does that, many times throughout the Bible, but there is also this side of him where he shows complete mercy and love. And I think that that is a strength that we often overlook, because it takes way more strength to endure suffering than to just remove it. And, that's the simple answer that we want from God. Like, God, why don't you just remove this from my life? Why don't you just remove this suffering? Why don't you just take me out of it, or kill the thing that's causing it? And again, we overlook that God himself did not remove the suffering from his own life. He, God the Father let his Son go through the torture and get killed. And then God the Son, Jesus Christ, went through suffering himself. And that is something that is guaranteed if you follow Christ. That's also just something guaranteed if you just live on this earth, is that this world is corrupt, and if we're living in it, we're gonna be in the crossfire. We're going to get hurt. There's trials and tribulations promised all throughout the Bible, but in the Bible, Jesus makes these promises that he will always be with us, and that's, again, something that silence highlights, that, despite the trials and the tribulations, we are guaranteed the presence of God, that he will be with us, he will be suffering with us, and he will push us through every single one. And yeah, just to sum it up, silence, man, it was a difficult watch. It was one of those movies that was just long, this slow burn to this buildup that was so unsatisfying. Rodrigues, like, he lost, like he stepped on the tablet, but then you watch more towards the end, and then you get this really cool resolve that God speaks, and he says, hey, I was with you throughout that whole time. I was suffering right next to you. And I think just what I got from this film was that God's silence does not mean his absence, and his presence is more important to us than an answer. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. All right, peace.
But why must their trial be so terrible? And why, when I look in my own heart, do the answers I give them seem so weak?